Looking for your next career move? Searching for exceptional talent? Richmond Associates is a global recruitment agency that supports inspiring careers in fundraising, alumni and community engagement, as well as admissions. They also support making a difference in meaningful sectors like education, arts, health and medical, as well as conservation. Working with you from their global offices in London, Sydney, and Singapore. Have a chat with your trusted advisors today at Richmond Associates. Do the greater good.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for listening to Alumless for June 5th, 2026. This is the Leading Through Change edition. I'm Ryan Catherwood, and I'm joined by CMAC founder and CEO, Chris Marshall. What's going on, Chris?
Hey, Ryan, how are you? Good to see you.
So good. Happy Friday to you. Anything special going on at the Marshall camp this weekend?
We are headed up to Cape Cod for a few days. A little vacation, a little work involved there, but we'll be up at Cape Cod for a little bit. Be nice.
Man, that's a great place to hang out for a few days. On the show, we talk about alumni and constituent engagement strategies and education advancement with our guests. And we are live today, so say hello in the comments on LinkedIn. We actually switched our streaming platforms after the last episode. It's sort of a switch back, Chris. We were here in StreamYard for 3 years or more, and then we use Riverside. And Riverside's live streaming capabilities just aren't as crisp, and experiencing more technical difficulties with Riverside, which we still use to produce the podcast, but it's just StreamYard is good. And when people say hello in the comments section on LinkedIn or ask questions, we can see that here in Riverside.
Yeah, we couldn't do that when we were in the other one, which I didn't like, but I know the post-production part was much better. But so if you're on and listening, put in the chat your comments on LinkedIn, and we'll see it in our chat box here. So looking forward to welcoming you.
Yeah, questions for us, questions from our special guest, Lindsay Vahl Dean from Northwestern University, who we'll bring out shortly. We are grateful if you are listening to us by podcast, not live. Of course, that is absolutely fine. We love that. Thanks for adding us to your feed, and we're grateful for the teams at Protopia, Alumni Q, Richmond Associates, and Givesy for all being presenting sponsors. Let's see. All right, Chris. So today's show is about leading change. And I wanted to ask you to get us going here to talk about what does significant change look like? And when you've watched an advancement shop navigate through change well, what seemed to make it work?
Yeah. The more significant the change, the more things get piled on, like sort of that perfect storm, the less likely it is that the answer is they've handled it well because there's something that's going to trip somebody. Usually what we find is there's some challenges they're facing, and oftentimes they bring us in to help navigate through some of those challenges. But in places that I have seen do it, we have I won't name the client because they did have some struggles along the way. It was a liberal arts school that had a change in president, change in vice president, and 2 changes in their alumni leader, and the configuration of what reported to that person was happening, was changing over within a short period of time. Within months, there's, multiple changes happening. There wasn't a CRM change that was going on. that
would just add a whole nother level of challenge.
Exactly, which we'll talk about with Lindsay in a little bit. But, I think part of it is just it's time and the sort of muscling through things. But the other one that I think that really helped them ultimately as they went through, I would say it probably took them 2 years to get through all this and settle back into some normalcy again. But during that time, what they kept going back to was their institutional values and having that clearly articulated about what you stand for and why you exist. Even at the level of, you go down the chart from values, you get into vision and mission. If you have those things in place and you have a clear North Star and how you behave, the chances of making it through these things are going to be a lot easier because you go back to your core values as an institution. We have a lot of people checking in online here. Welcome.
Yeah, it's great to see it.
Your name's on here. Yeah, it's cool. Missed this part.
Thanks for the team at Illinois State for being with us today. Kelly Holdcraft from William & Mary, Josh Harriman from Ohio State, Kristen Van Gundy. Kristen, where do you work? Someone's going to pull that up. I should know this already. Scott Francis, good to see you. I'm glad you all are joining us. We are so grateful to have you on the stream today. Chris, why is change so hard, particularly for advancement teams? What makes our world different than maybe
Yeah.
change at other places?
I think it's the passion people have for the place, right? It's tradition that have been in place. It's sort of generational ownership, if you will. The story I often will share with when I was in the sitting role, and I give this advice to folks now in these roles, is that the alums who are complaining, they're complaining because they care about the place. For one, right? It's like a negative contact in some way, negative communication if they're coming in with a complaint. But what I often will say is this: is that the view by many alums who are complaining is that they're seeing their alma mater through what is a still photo in their mind of the experience they had from me from 84 to 88. So now closing in on 40 years ago. I can't believe that. But it's a still picture in their mind. And the reality is any university, and especially in this day and age, it's a motion picture. We are changing on the fly every day, and get alums to understand that what they knew as their view of the world is going to be different. Doesn't mean we don't care about them or that traditions aren't important. It's just that we are progressing with the times and trying to keep up. And in some cases, some institutions trying to keep their doors open. So we have schools that are our clients that are, closing down majors and academic departments because they can't sustain the enrollment numbers. And that hurts the alum because they see it through that still picture. But the reality of the motion picture is if you're a leader and a president and running that business, you have to make that change.
Yeah. Yeah. There's all these different types of change, of course. There's the changing of traditions. And I think you're right. We talked about this with Carolyn Kimberlin at Dartmouth 2 weeks ago, example. Where it's a perfect example of evolution is really important, but doing it thoughtfully and strategically bringing your alumni along for that journey. All right, well, let's bring out our special guest today is Lindsay Vahl Dean. She is the Assistant Vice President for Alumni Engagement, and she is the Executive Director at Northwestern Alumni Association. Hey, Lindsay.
Well, good morning. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks, Chris, for inviting me to this space and to have a conversation. You just mentioned 40 years, and I was just thinking wow, 20 years ago, I was graduating from college as well. So it's really interesting to have this reflection point when you're doing this work all the time, or if you've never left higher ed. And then, of course, I want to give a shout out to all my friends and soon to be friends on LinkedIn who have joined us this morning. So thank you for your
Kristen
support.
Van Gundy is from Denison. I should have known that right off the bat. Yeah, good to see you.
Hey, Kristen, thanks for joining. So we designed the show to talk a little bit about the season of change that's happening at Northwestern. Set the stage for us. What is on your plate right now as you close out this quarter? And then, of course, you're in commencement season as well.
Yeah. So first, let me say I'm jealous of all my colleagues who have concluded all of their academic year responsibilities. We're in the quarter system, so I always think that makes things a little bit different. Going from a semester to a quarters has its perks and also not so much. But as we close out the quarter, I think we're very much trying to land the plane. We're wrapping up our year programming. We're thinking about how we're supporting students as they think about the end of their Northwestern experience and making sure that those touch points feel very meaningful to a time that's already highly emotional and is a milestone. I mean, we just both talked about that milestone, Chris. And so we're focused on our end of year celebrations and commencement. And these are powerful moments that takes a lot of coordination from colleagues across the university to ensure that we're giving best in class. And that also includes alumni engagement, because this marks that transition as they walk across the stage, and we want to be highly involved. And so many of those are longstanding Northwestern traditions, like painting the rock. If you've ever been on campus, I don't know what the rock originally looks like, or march back through the arch that happens as well. So when students come to Northwestern, they march through the arch, and then as they conclude, it's going backwards. And so that's kind of the student piece. And then we're also thinking about what's next for our recent grads and thinking about what that strategy looks like going into the next year. So we want to make sure that they think about themselves as lifelong Wildcats. So as soon as they cross the stage, so that we can continue to inspire them socially, professionally, and intellectually. That's the association mission. And so that includes anything from messaging and communications to our digital engagement and virtual programming, so that we can make sure that they feel like that they have an identity that feels real to them as individuals. So I think that's really important. So from a team perspective, we're looking ahead, thinking about what worked, what didn't work, where we saw strong engagement, where we have opportunities to continue evolving in our work. And as we navigate national and institutional change, we're thinking about how alumni engagement can support those institutional priorities, and then continuing to provide like connection, community, and those things. So I'd say that's all the things that are going on, and much more, of course, like giving that 10,000 foot view.
Well, we'll say a little bit more about where Northwestern University is in all of this change. Is this what's going on at the school? How do you read the tea leaves from where the institution is in the greater Chicago area and just on a national front?
So I think we're really in a place of privilege and momentum. I know that a lot of institutions have gone through significant transition. And on the heels of that, I think there is so much good. People rally around change in a way, especially when you think about having a new president, we have a new provost. Those things evoke an emotion where people want to show up and support. And so I'm really looking forward to what's ahead versus thinking about like all of the challenges that we've experienced.
Yeah. Well, so you've got those annual challenges, end of year, you've got those major institutional challenges, which is new leadership that's in place. What have you learned about leading through this stretch? A lot shifting all at once.
Well, I think it's about providing the team with some clarity around purpose. I always say to my team, and hey, if anyone's on here to the Northwestern Alumni Association team, is like worry about what's in your sphere of influence. Because if you think about everything else, and I borrowed this from one of my colleagues, you can't boil the ocean because it can really be paralyzing to your work and to how you're functioning outside of work. So it's important for us as leaders to think about and reinforce why the work matters and how each individual can contribute to that, rather than trying to take on the responsibility of all. And so if we all are understanding what that North Star is, it helps us think about, what the priorities are, what the timelines are, and understand that that's going to always evolve. From a leadership standpoint, I think that trying to be as transparent as possible is really important in this space, because I don't always have the answers, and I am very transparent, or as transparent as I can be with the information, about saying, I don't know yet, or we don't know yet, because I do think that that provides insight of like where things are, because sometimes we literally just don't know. And I think that's an opportunity to build some trust within the community, whether that be staff or volunteers. And so I don't think that anybody always thinks that we should have everything figured out. But I think there's an expectation that we try to be as honest as possible and clear. So I'll pause there.
Yeah, I use that expression a lot, boiling the. I use it in my household with my family. I'm trying to boil the. You can't even boil Lake Michigan if you're at Northwestern, right? It's too much, right? And I always say, find a good pond or a lake and start there and boil that. Yeah. One of the things that you're boiling is your CRM transition, and I know you've been pretty transparent about some of the challenges. I have not heard of a single CRM I don't care what. I'm not disparaging any vendor, anything that you're leaving from and going to. Every single time we've ever heard it, there's been challenges. There's never been this has been fun kind of a thing. But what have you learned? What any tips you have on it for others? But what do you see as the long-term benefit of going through this pain?
Well, It's been more than a year. We're in. We just started year 2 of the launch, but of course, there were years of work from a significant portion of the Northwestern community that is contributing to its success. And it is challenging because it touches everything that we do every day, how people are doing their jobs, our systems. So I think it's hard to manage the learning curve because there's just so many unknowns. I think we plan for what we know, and then we have to be okay with ambiguity, which that's truly challenging.
Yeah.
But there's also this expectation to still deliver exceptional service to our volunteers and our alumni and donors and friends and our programming. And so the work doesn't stop so that we can figure out what's going on. And it does create a little bit of friction, and I will say, frustration, because in our old system, which we had for a long time, things felt simple because people knew how to use it. We knew how to coordinate. We knew what to ask. We knew how to create processes for it. And so that has changed. The other thing that I'll mention in our transition is that we did move our autonomy away from our volunteers, which was also a big curve. So communications for our clubs and communities were within their sphere of influence. And now we have processes where we have staff who support that communication. So that also contributes to some of the frustration. And I think there's also like a shift in mindset. Like some people may say, oh, this is a great tool, but it's a more informed way of working. Like I think that it is going to be transformational for the work that we do in advancement. And it is going to take some time and repetition for the waters to be calm. So I think long-term, it's really exciting. I want to make sure that we'll be able to scale our work, and I think we are, and it's going to help us better understand our alumni and friends. It's going to help us personalize how we engage and coordinate more effectively across our teams. So right now, it's taking a lot of investment of our time and energy, but that time and energy, I think, is going to be well worth it long term. So it's been demanding. We're laying the groundwork, and we'll continue to work through the challenges so that we can utilize it at its optimal stage.
The notion that we can better talk to our alumni like we know them, right? We have data and information on their behaviors and what they're interested in, and being able to communicate with them in that realm is so important.
Chris, I was just going to say that I interviewed Chris Cannon, who is a longtime advancement operations professional on my other podcast. And I asked him that question directly just yesterday. Why does every integration of a CRM take so long? It seems, and he was like, there's really 2 reasons. Reason number 1 is the can't you just reason. which he was saying is like, there's a reason like the everybody does not necessarily know all that goes into this, and so there's a can't you just constant sort of requests going on, and then it's the perfect is the enemy of the good, right? Because I think there's a lot at stake in getting it right and making sure no donors receive communications that are errant. And so the carefulness of all of that, the care that goes in, those were the 2 reasons he pointed out. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
I'll also jump in. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say that also, like, these products have to be adjusted for each institution because we all built our ways of knowing and doing very differently. And so the products that are delivered may not fully include what the needs are, and so there's a lot of adjustment in that. And so it's just like any other thing that we do, like something that's done at Northwestern, and I take it to my alma mater because a lot of my friends are on here, is not going to work at Illinois State, right? And so how do you have to adjust it for the size and scope, and that's something that has to be considered.
Yeah, such a good point.
Chris, let's take a quick break and we'll be back and we'll wrap up the live show with Lindsay.
Yeah.
One of the biggest challenges colleges face is keeping alumni connected after graduation. Events, reunions, fundraising, it's a lot to manage. And honestly, most schools are piecing it together with different tools that don't really talk to each other. That's why Alumni Q has built their all-in-one platform just for higher ed. It handles the everyday stuff, emails, giving, membership, directories, and it makes it all work together in one place. No more messy systems. And here's the cool part. If you've ever planned a reunion, you know how chaotic it can get. Alumni Q has something called Signature Events that takes the pain out of big milestones. Think smarter registration, built-in giving, real-time reporting, and even printing name tags on the fly. It's like having an extra teammate who never sleeps. So if your school is ready to simplify alumni engagement and actually strengthen connections, check out alumniq.com and request a demo.
Thank you to our friends at Alumni Q. And Lindsay, I know there will be people, I'm surprised it hasn't come up in the chat yet, who will ask the question, what system were you in and what are you going to? We're not going to do that. But if you have that question, email Lindsay offline and she'll tell you the answer, but not on our podcast because it's always tough. But let me ask you one last question on this topic, though.
Okay.
Short form response.
Sure.
Requested in the what advice do you have for another alumni leader who's going to go through this process? They're facing the same change. What are you going to tell them?
Okay, simple and honest. You have to balance the change management and the training because it's happening at the same time. And there's a lot of prioritization happening. And so you can't do everything. So they're back to the boiling the ocean reference, or Lake Michigan. I like that better, and I'm going to start using that. So identify what matters the most and try to do what's best for both the staff, volunteers, and the constituents. And then I think the biggest thing is you have to provide grace. I do always think inherently that people are leading with positive intentions, and I say that a lot.
I agree.
But it's hard for everyone, and it's also normal. It's normal for this to be hard.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the nugget of that I would say is prioritize. Prioritize what's most important and focus on that first, and work your way down that list.
Yeah. Well, I mean, bringing a new CRM into the fold makes sense that it would be a big priority. And a lot of that is about making engagement more effectively connected with the philanthropy enterprise. So for you at Northwestern, Lindsay, what does better alignment look like between the work that you're doing and the work of your colleagues in development? I notice you have one of those dual title positions. How does all this fit together from your view?
Well, first, I'm really excited because we're in a pilot phase of what we're calling the integrated regional strategy, and it is a top line goal for our division. So it's not just for the alumni team, it's not just for the development team, it's really for our entire division. And so we've been working in 2 markets this past year, and we're organizing around our shared goals. So whether it's engagement or development focus, we're working in the same regions, we're looking at the same segments or audiences, and many times working with the same individuals. So we have, prospect managers and volunteer managers working with the same people. So the day-to-day in that is more cohesive planning, aligning better on travel, on our events, on our outreach, and on our relationships, so that we're working more in together versus parallel. Like, we're not driving down the highway together. And a lot of times we saw ourselves duplicating efforts, not on purpose, but just because the work that we're doing is adjacent. And so we're really trying to deliver this one Northwestern experience for all.
Where have you seen in your time in the role where they get out of sync? What are the places where you see that happening?
So we separate ourselves on events in a location in short order. Our university priorities have been defined under our previous presidential leadership. And one instance that I'm thinking about is that us and another area in our division created an event around data science and AI. It's a priority for us. And we were looking to deliver a similar event within 6 weeks of each other. And it's one of those things like, it's a dumb moment. It's like, why are we doing this? Right. Luckily, we caught it far enough in advance where we were able to segment the invitation to make sure that we weren't stepping on toes externally, but it showed that we were stepping on each other internally. And again, not on purpose. So I think this just provides us the opportunity to say that engagement is not separate from fundraising and vice versa, that we're really looking at the continuum of engagement as one whole piece. Right. And really sharing how someone experiences Northwestern through their lifetime.
I recall a moment make you feel a little better. When I was in my first year at Cornell, we went to San Francisco to do an event. It was a big trip for us. We're on the east, they're out west, obviously. And we found out the day of that there were 3 events happening in San Francisco that none of us in the same division knew the other one was planning.
Well, speaking of advanced planning, that's a focus of yours as you're dealing with, better supporting alumni and staff. But there's a culture to build around advanced planning. It does not happen overnight. A lot of system changes, process changes, embracing, not moving on, to the next thing. And it's really sort of attention to detail. Talk about that. How have you built a culture when everyone's so heads down to the day-to-day,
That event at Cornell, I'm sorry, Lindsay, real quick, birthed the expression, no LMS. No last minute scrambles ever again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all right.
I like it. I'm going to adopt that too. So my team is going to say, oh my gosh, all these things she's bringing back for us. So I think part of it, some of the things that I've seen since I've been here, and I'd be remiss not to mention like Northwestern, especially the Alumni Association when I came in, experienced a lot through the Great Resignation. So a lot of information left, a lot of people moved around. And so you have a lot of processes and procedures that have to be reestablished or defined and starting from scratch. And my team has done a phenomenal job of like resetting those expectations and creating the documentation to support that. But now I feel like we're kind of shifting a little bit. So now that we've done some of that footwork, is really, I'm trying to bring more of a culture of advanced planning so that we can have more of a runway and be proactive rather than reactive. I feel like we've been in a very reactive stage since I've been here. And so that's something that I'm trying to undo slowly. Again, I am thoughtful that nothing happens overnight. When we reorganized within the association almost 2 years ago, and one of the things that I said is that this is going to actually probably take about 18 months. And one of the staff members, I remember her saying a few months in, she was like, when you said 18 months, I really wasn't believing you. But now I understand why you were giving us this runway of time, because you have to go through the change itself. Then you have to go through the year of experience of what that change looks like. And then you need to make adjustments. And one of the things that I feel like that we're in now is we're making consistent adjustments now of what, a portfolio may look like, a program may look like. So, I think that really helps us coordinate across our team and then also be flexible when priorities shift or something happens that we need to be nimble. And I think it provides a better experience for our alumni who are experiencing whatever we're putting out into the ethos. And then it also provides our staff a more sustainable pace, because alumni engagement work does not stop. There's not a quiet season like in other areas. It's always going. And so I think we just have to, make space for that. Like trying to plan ahead in alumni engagement is really hard, but I think the intentionality of doing that is setting everyone else up for success.
Yeah. The other fun in our field is, and at Northwestern this will be true, is when a team, an athletics team makes a postseason or a bowl game, and all of a sudden you don't have a month, you have a week to plan.
Yeah.
A week is generous sometimes.
Yeah. the way the new college football playoff system works, you're not like finding out if you're going to be able to be home for Christmas, those top tier teams, like in the middle of December. It's wild.
Yeah.
It is interesting to hear. I mean, shout out to my colleagues from, the Ohio State, Michigan, Indiana, who have most recently like had to experience this, like having to plan so many probably alumni events week to week is a massive undertaking. So
we had another question planned here about your new president and working that. We'll move that to the bonus section. Chris, our next guest well. How about you share who's coming up on Alumless on June 19th?
Sharon Freeman Hoffel, who worked with me when she was at Cornell University, is now the Lindsay. She's in your role at University of California, San Diego. And she's great. She's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll have Shara on June 19th. Juneteenth, we'll have that date.
Indeed.
All right. In advance and broadcast it on the 19th.
Yep. All right. Well, Lindsay, thank you so much for being live with our audience here today. It's great. Thank you so many of you for tuning in today. Really appreciate it. We're going to go record our bonus segment with Lindsay, and we'll put it up on the podcast stream here a little later on. Thanks for checking in with us, and we'll be back in your feed on the 19th with Shara Freeman Hopeful. Okay.
Go Cats.